What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another severe weather forecast here by Age Weather Forecast. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the big probability for some really strong storms moving into the north central today, most likely bringing us some spotty tornadoes, very large hail, and very strong damaging winds for portions of the Dakotas, Nebraska, Iowa, and even portions of Minnesota. So we're going to be taking a really close look at the timing, who can see the worst, and all of that in today's video. So please be sure to watch the whole video so you are weather aware. Before we get into the forecast, please smash that like button if you really enjoyed this video. Also, smash the subscribe button to show your awesome support if you really enjoy my channel, my content. And also be sure to hit the post notification icon so you get notified as soon as I post a video. So you can watch the most accurate and most weather aware video here. Without further ado, let's get into the severe weather forecast. So we're going to be looking at the National Weather Service very quickly here. We do have a couple advisories or alerts here that could be something we can talk about. We do have a couple spotty flash flood watches for portions of the northern plains where we do, or the Midwest, where we do see the severe weather potential for today. And when I'm mentioning this is because we're going to be seeing some really strong downpours with these strong storms. Whether it's a QLCS or whether it's a semi-discrete system, they're going to bring really heavy rain for these areas, so it could very well have in it so really a big talk is also the flooding here. So not just severe weather, but also going to be seeing some flooding, and we also have some flood warnings for portions of the I-40 area and eastern South Dakota, where we can very well see the heaviest of the rain today, most likely in those very strong potential QLCSs, maybe even a derecho is likely today, as we do have that big low jet. And then also we have a very big area out here into the Mississippi River Basin, also Ohio River, where we do have a ton of flash, really flooding alerts. We do have flash flood warnings for portions of the Mississippi River Basin near not near St. Louis, north of St. Louis, and then we also have some in the Ohio Valley near the areas near Indiana and also Kentucky near Paducah and Evansville. Now let's go and check out the severe weather. Here we are taking a look at the severe weather here for the day one outlook, and as you see, we do have a huge update on the slight risk here. They have extended a lot more for Iowa and a lot more for Minnesota and even a lot more for Nebraska. We do have a couple more people under the slight risk here. So slight risk is our highest risk as of so far today. I really not going to rule out the possibility for an enhanced risk. I do think the wind probability should be added to a 30% chance non-hatch risk. I really do feel like this would be necessary as we have a very strong low jet, which is exactly why we had those red flag warnings for portions of the southwest there. This is going to bring some very strong winds, severe weather related as well. 90+ mph winds are likely here. So I really do think an enhanced risk could be added by later today in the afternoon. So I'm not going to rule out the possibility. It really depends where they add that 30% chance for winds, but I think this most likely could be extended from South Dakota, maybe even North Dakota right here. It's going to be a very small area of an enhanced risk, but I'm not going to rule out the possibility. But if you were in a slight risk right now, still be weather aware, as that's still our highest probability for severe weather. So just because it's not a moderate or a high doesn't mean you can't be weather aware. If you're worried about tornadoes, the probability is only a 2% chance, but obviously, if you're still under a probability for tornadoes, take it seriously, but you don't have to be on your tippy toes like whether if you were on a 10% chance for tornadoes or even a 15 or even a 15% chance. So just don't be on your tippy toes. Just go, if you have any storms moving in your area, just look at the news. If it's necessary, if you're outside, maybe go inside and take shelter, whether it's because of the large hail or maybe because there is a tornado warning. Could definitely expect 1 or 2 tornadoes today, but you know, it's not going to be major. Here we have our hail probability. It's at a 15% chance here, so decent probability for 2-inch diameter hail or larger. And then we have a 15% chance for winds. I definitely do think the 30% chance could be added. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not the SPC. I'm not part of the SPC, and I'm not even technically I'm not a real meteorologist. But I do, based on the low jet, based on this wind pattern, I really do have the confidence in saying there's a probability we have a 30% chance. Could very well happen in portions of the Midwest, whether it's South Dakota or North Dakota. So here is the NAM3KM model. This is into the next coming hours here in the afternoons, really when the storms start to ramp up, as that's when you go through all the overday heating. That's when KVAs get at their highest, really in the evening. Now let's go and check out really what's going to, these storms are really going to be really intense here. Like I said, South Dakota, we had those flood warnings in the eastern area of I-40. You guys are definitely going to be seeing maybe some flash flood warnings by later today, even some very strong storms likely producing some very strong winds for a portion of North Dakota. But look at this storm could very well be a derecho or QLCS moving into portions of Nebraska and South Dakota. Very powerful storms. That's exactly why they did push that slight ridge to the east, and also a second linear storm heading towards the areas of Bismarck. Very powerful storms, very widespread as well. That's going to go straight through areas near Sioux City, Iowa, including areas like Omaha, Lincoln, Nebraska. So if you're in Omaha and portions of eastern Nebraska near Nebraska City, you guys definitely want to be able to look at. And as we now get into July 1st, which is tomorrow, these storms are definitely not going to give up. Actually, we have very impressive Cape values for tomorrow due to these finishing storms that we're seeing today, and then they fall apart well by tomorrow afternoon. Here's a look at the new Cape Valley model here on Pivotal Weather. As you see, we're seeing very widespread, good amounts or decent amounts of actually Cape is actually already starting to ramp off. And next coming hours, we're going to start getting up to 5,000 joules per kilogram, possibly 5,020, and even some decent numbers for the South Central. But that is due, we have a lot of humidity, Gulf moisture there, which is going to be increasing the numbers. But areas in the Midwest, like areas in portions of Nebraska, surpassing 4,500. Areas in Minnesota, of course, that close to maybe 5,100 joules per kilogram. And it's into later tonight. These numbers are absolutely crazy, these numbers. And not only are they high, they're very widespread from the Canadian border to portions of Dallas. Even though this is not where we're seeing the severe weather today, look at these numbers. 5,400 joules per kilogram, 5,600 joules per kilogram, maybe even 5,653 joules per kilogram, even 5,700. Very good numbers in areas where we don't have severe weather. This is actually a very good example of how you can have some very high K value. Doesn't mean you're going to be seeing severe weather. But for the Nebraska area, that's completely different, because that's where we're going to be seeing the severe weather. 5,300 joules per kilogram, 5,400, almost 5,600. And in that area, North Dakota, we're surpassing 5,000 joules per kilogram by a mile there. And then very well, really surpassing 4,800 joules per kilogram for portions of Minnesota. And those numbers do die down. But tomorrow, we also have some good numbers due to those finishing storms tomorrow, as we can possibly surpass almost getting close to 6,000 joules per kilogram. So those numbers are very impressive tomorrow as well, but not a big severe weather threat, just all the energy that's left over. Let's go and check out now the CAP numbers here. And as you see, this is when these storms really start to ramp up. We have some very good numbers, though, actually. Anything higher than a negative 200, so anything higher than that, anything higher than negative 200 is considered very high cap. You want low cap when it comes to severe weather development, because that means a lower warm area loft, which is mean when you have basically the surface is right here. This is the surface, and you have very warm air in the higher atmosphere. Let's say this is beyond 20,000 feet there. Let's say just beyond 20,000. But you don't want to have that. You want to switch that up. You want to have a cool surface. So this is where the cities are. Cities, cool surface. And then the higher atmosphere, you want to have a warm surface. You want to have a warm surface. Let me actually redo that. You want to have a warm surface, a very warm surface. And then in the higher atmosphere, you want to have a cool air. You want to have very cool air. And the higher atmosphere, let's say 30,000 feet, and that is going to really make a higher probability for severe weather. So you do not want a warm area loft. The higher the cap, the better the warm area loft is, which means the potential for storm development decreases, and that's when wind shear can take over the storm and make it fall apart, which is why sometimes in summer you see small systems of severe weather fall apart right before they hit you. But look at these numbers. Negative 159. That's not too close to the negative 200 and cap number wise. Negative 69 for portions of Nebraska, areas in South Dakota, negative 112, areas in North Dakota, negative 120, negative 166, negative 54, negative 63, even in portions of Minnesota, negative 93, negative 84, negative 65, negative 118. Those are decent numbers there, all below negative 200. And then by later today, by July 1st, in the early hours there, when those storms kind of die down a little bit, look at these numbers: negative 116, negative 51, and then But the storms tomorrow will cap out. That's exactly why we're not going to be seeing a huge risk for severe weather, because look at this, negative 621. But when you look at the cap, it says beyond 6,000 joules per kilogram. But that's when the cap comes into play. Let's go and check out now let's go and check out the helicity, which is the amount of spin in the atmosphere. But basically, what recap the cap is, we're not going to be seeing very high amount of cap where the storms will develop. We're going to be seeing beyond negative 200 on cap, but that's behind or around the storm development or area of severe weather. Helicity now, this is the amount of spin in the atmosphere here, and as you see, the higher the helicity, actually the better. So this is the opposite of cap. Look at these numbers though. 664 meters per second squared out there. That's very, very good. And then possibly getting close to 700 meters per second squared. And as we now move more into the evening hours, look at this, 677 meters per second squared, 579. Very, very good numbers here. Actually, these are very impressive there. And then that's going to go right in the area of potential development for severe weather. And then the last thing we'll be looking at is a supercell composite parameter, which is the SCP, short for, of course, what I just said. And that is going to measure the probability for seeing supercells on a graph. Anything higher than a 25, is considered a very, very good probability for supercells. Some people say 25, some people say 20. I usually say 20, but I can go with the 25. Anything higher than that is considered a very good probability. And later today, or right now, we're seeing a very good number on the SCP already for starting out the day. Seeing 16, 15, 17, very good numbers there for the start of the day. And then later we get up to 21. Very, very good number for the start of the day. Let me just tell you that. And then by later on, we get to 23. We might even have possibly a 25 over there in that number. And then those numbers kind of die down as cap comes into play and the evening comes in. Well, I hope you guys did enjoy that very informative video there on the severe weather likely for today. Obviously, this won't be a severe weather tornado outbreak. Obviously, this could very well bring in a severe weather potential outbreak, because we're going to be seeing very widespread storms. Doesn't mean they're going to bring in tornadoes necessarily. It's not going to be a tornado outbreak, but it could very well be a severe weather outbreak when it comes to a ton of hail reports, a ton of wind reports, and all of that. That's when it comes to severe weather outbreak, because you can have a severe weather outbreak without tornadoes, because it doesn't say tornado outbreak. Because Easter outbreak, that you can call a tornado outbreak and a severe weather outbreak. But definitely a huge probability for severe weather today, without a doubt, whether we have an enhanced or whether we stay at a slight risk. So please be weather aware. Not sure if I want to have another video out today. I'll let y'all know. And also, I'm still waiting for the final vote in the poll on the winter discussion, or first winter thoughts. So please go ahead and check out the committee post to vote on the poll. I'll be waiting maybe one more day. Maybe by the end of today, I'll take in the final numbers and see whether I do a first winter thoughts this week, not at all, or later into July. Hope you guys enjoy the video, and bye guys.